Welcome to Divisive Issues, the foul-mouthed, spoiler-filled comic book podcast where two fans and two non-fans talk about controversial and noteworthy comics and comic book history. I'm Ryan.
I'm Sly.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Darryl.
And welcome to Edgelord August.
My favorite time of the year.
If this is your first Edgelord August with us, it's exactly what it sounds like. We spend the month of August talking about Edgelord books, usually Mark Millar.
Can someone, for those of us who are new, tell the audience what an Edgelord is? Because you guys introduced the term to me.
It's someone that's edgy, as in, like, they always try and be, like, I would be tempted to say thought-provoking, but it's not very thought-provoking. It's like, what if a baby fell off a cliff and died? You're like, and? Like, that's terrible. And then they're like, I'm going to draw it. And you're like, great. And
yeah, so a lot of times the substance is the pushing of the envelope and like
pushing of the
nothing
envelope.
else.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. They do it. It's originally done to be like dark and grim, but then it's like, what if this is cool for the sake of itself? Like, what if just murdering millions of people was like a crazy thing to see?
Well, there's two flavors. There's the teenage wouldn't it be cool this happened, and then there's the one we usually sample, which is the Mark Millar, Garth Ennis, and Warren Ellis style, which is more British cynicism, like world is shit. What if all these people die? Doesn't matter. A living body and dead body as much add as each other. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but there's still coolness embedded here, where they're like, it's cool because we're stopping them.
Mm-hmm. But it's just a very because like this is like Warren Ellis is considered prestigious material. So I want to compare it to something like a '90s Edgelord would do. Mark Millar, and it's like that doesn't mean he's justified because Mark Millar is considered prestigious for some fucking unconscientious opinion. But for some reason, like there's a disparity in like how these are regarded in terms of good literature, bad literature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're not, for the first year ever, not talking about Mark Millar, but we're talking about Warren Ellis.
We're not talking about Millar yet.
Well, this is Millar related. We're doing.
I mean, Mark Millar ended up taking over the Authority.
Mark Millar. This is a book Mark Millar that spoke to Mark Millar enough that he wrote it afterwards, and he ripped off a lot of ideas because Mark Millar never has a good idea. All he does is rip off other people. He ripped off a lot of the impact people credit to Mark Millar about what if superheroes took a bigger impact on the world. Basically, how the Ultimates fed into MCU, Authority fed into Ultimates.
Yes. So now the Authority is the team that was bred out of Stormwatch. When we talk about this at the beginning, we're going to see a lot of like Stormwatch exposition, and that's where Midnighter and Apollo come from, who we've talked about. We've done 2 Midnighter episodes, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Midnighter is Batman, but edgy and gay.
Yes.
Apollo is just gay Superman, kind of edgy. He kills people, but he's not like I'm trying to make you feel bad kind of way. He just kind of kills people. Mm-hmm. John Hawksmoor, I forget his full first name. Jack Hawksmoor. He's like a reverse druid where he's in tune of the cities instead of like nature, and so he walks around barefoot and he's able to move through cities. He
feels like the pain of cities as they're being destroyed and stuff.
Yeah, Swift I think is just Hawk Girl, basically.
Yeah.
Jenny Sparks. I forget her like full scope of power.
She's like electricity, but
she's called like the Spirit of Century. She's like immortal.
Yep. She's like an industrial revolution, or like as electricity was invented, she became she's like 100 years old.
She embodies like the spirit of the culture at the time, and it's been a long time since I read Warren Ellis' Stormwatch. It is excellent. I highly recommend it. But I believe she was born on like January 1st, 1900. Mm-hmm. And she looks like she's like in her like late 20s, early 30s now.
Yeah, and there's the engineer.
Who's like a robot. She's like has a robot exoskeleton.
It's a woman
and she uses nanomachines.
Yeah.
She's basically like Iron Man in the modern movies where he has like nanomachines making using techno magic. She's like
techno magic's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It's like Iron Man in the movies basically a rip-off of the engineer. Yeah. And last one,
the doctor is like a crazy shaman. Who's like
he's basically the Avatar from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yeah. Basically, all the shamans from previous worlds are here to protect everyone. They impart their knowledge to the next shaman.
One quick thing I want to say about the Iron Man in the movies being a ripoff of the Engineer. It's actually his whole like nanotech controlling technology with his brain thing is actually from Warren Ellis' Iron Man from 4 years later. So
Warren Ellis had even bigger impact than I remember. Yeah, he made nanotech
Extremis.
shit.
Yeah. Oh, so just the one thing I want to mention before I forget, in honor of Jack Hawksmoor. This was actually requested a while ago from a listener whose name is Jay Coxmore in our Discord and Comic Fanboy 616 on Twitter. And he recommended this right now for a couple reasons. One, it's the 20th anniversary. So this book came out in 1999/2000. And Warren Ellis is currently at DC. He's been rebooting this entire universe because this wasn't the DC universe. It was the Wildstorm universe, which is like this I don't remember if DC founded it or DC bought it later, but it was like... Yeah, so it was like an edgelordy kind of universe that I don't know anything pre-Warren Ellis.
If you read 90s Wildstorm, imagine Rob Liefeld on steroids. Like it was catering to that market.
On steroids?
Like Stormwatch. I have like reverse search of Stormwatch, and I tried to read it. It's unreadable. But like when Warren Ellis, so I want to really mention this real quick. Warren Ellis, definitely, he's not a writer that sticks on the book forever. He's really a writer that like this Authority runs only like 12 issues. He really comes with a big idea. He writes like 6 issues and leaves, and other writers work with what he did. That's kind of what he did with Authority.
That's what he did with Iron Man too.
Yeah, I think Stormwatch is the only run he really built up over time because he basically transitioned Stormwatch from this edgy book into he basically put all the Authority members in it slowly, and then eventually killed off all the Stormwatch members. And now he created the Authority, and then left immediately after creating the Authority, which is funny. Like he built up the Authority, then left immediately after the Authority was set up.
Yeah, but I would say that aside from like some more self-contained indie stuff like Transmetropolitan and stuff, I think Stormwatch is his longest like superhero run, like you mentioned. And I mean, I think it's like really top tier stuff. But
I like his Stormwatch more than his Authority.
Me too. But we are so right now Warren Ellis is like rebuilding this whole universe, and the book is super great, and he's supposed to launch this new one, but like as of this week, they were like, "Is it ever going to come out? It's shelved indefinitely." And DC's like, "We promise it'll come out." And Warren Ellis is like, "It ain't ever coming out." But who knows if it will? But it's pretty relevant now. And we talked a lot about Warren Ellis. We're doing issues 1 to 6 this episode, and 7 to 12 next time.
So we're ending in the middle of a cliffhanger because of the way these are collected.
Yeah, because it's 3 4-issue arcs, and instead of doing 8 and 4, I figured it would be more fun to just do 6 and 6, especially after doing 13 issues at a time for 52. And we talked a lot about Warren Ellis, but it also features Brian Hitch on art. And
so this looks like Ultimates. Like if you look at
it looks like Ultimates. It reads like Ultimates. And I asked Sly one time where I was like reading this. I'm like, did this come before or after Ultimates?
Yes,
they said before, and I was like, oh my god, because this is so Ultimates-esque that it's like Millar. It makes Ultimates look so much worse.
I think we should make like this is we should establish from now on. Millar gets no credit for anything. Like he comes up with nothing good. Like he's just bad. He just rips up other people's ideas. He just writes as those shit. Like everyone does his writing style better than he does. Like
I think I like Ultimates more than the Authority so far. I'm not through the whole thing, but I can get into why as we go along. But I think I enjoy Ultimates more than Authority.
Okay. But I don't think it's better written.
Yeah,
but
that's the thing.
We'll see when, like we talked about in 52. I think Sly and I are too like we have to defend this in the middle of the story. We should wait till it's over and then we'll yell at Darryl.
Sure.
But yeah, so this is 1999-2000, and one of the things that I just want to mention is this is an era of comics that I find really fascinating, where comics were in the late 90s starting to mature and get more political, but it's pre 9/11. And like there's some runs like Christopher Priest Black Panther that I think does the style really well, but it's very interesting seeing this kind of style book. We talk about how like it's Ultimates, but Ultimates is very much a critique of post 9/11 America, and seeing almost the same concept about like this like imperialist like overwatching like cops of the world, but pre 9/11 is very interesting to me. And I just bring that up because having it be 1999 is I think an important context that we forget about when, like, at least for me personally, when I look at the political aspects of stuff, I forget like there was an American foreign policy before 9/11 that people didn't like either.
All this before any of Mark Millar's like let's make like Ultimates, Civil War, all that stuff. So this was before like in the 90s, before comics really got into world politics. So like the context this was in, like nothing exists like this in comics before.
Yeah, absolutely. So it starts with
like any good edgelord book, a crying baby getting nuked.
Oh no, even before that, there's a shot of the world from space, and it's they think there's no one left to save the world. The Authority, Circle. The Circle, issue 1.
Circle.
Yeah, so, yeah, it opens in Moscow. There's a crying baby that it doesn't get nuked, but a million little, like, a million men show up.
I
and
mean,
just blow
that
up.
explosion's taken out a lot of buildings. Like, it's not a nuclear bomb, but
It's like a million Supermen like just fly into the city. It's like it's destruction on such a scale that you're like, okay, millions of people just died.
Which
here.
is this is where I was like, this feels so Ultimates-esque. But now knowing both as Brian Hitch that worked on this, who did Ultimates,
Yes.
and also like it's the same exact style where it's like there's multiple pages throughout the Authority that are just Hitch's art and the colorist, like just carrying a lot of the weight of the impact of like, look how much destruction there is, look how much chaos, how much mayhem. There's no like onomatopoeias going on. You're just seeing like explosions, cars lifting
civilians
in the air, bodies
getting
flying.
lit on fire.
Yeah, laser
like
eyes.
their skeletons being disintegrated.
Yeah, it's that kind of like edgy style.
Yeah, so there are all these people that are like Superman. They're wearing full black jumpsuits with this like logo that's like a circle with 3 dots on it, and they're just landing. They have heat vision. They shoot lasers.
They're fucking Superman. Like
yeah, and they're just destroying everything. And we get a shot that's the shot of from Terminator, of Terminator 2, of them holding the fence, turning into skeletons. And then it cuts to New York City, where we see Christine and Jackson.
The only 2 surviving members of Stormwatch.
Yes.
And it's funny because I saw them and immediately I'm like, is this like Oracle,
Nick Fury and Maria
Fury?
Hill?
But this is before Ultimates, before Nick Fury was like known to be black.
Yeah. This is all before all that.
So
stuff.
I guess they're not
So-
direct analogs.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like exposition and stuff of just like recapping where they're at. So Stormwatch was, funded by the UN, and the UN was like, we can't afford to pay for these huge superhero concepts of like these ships that travel through dimensions and stuff. So they shut it down, and these people were the ones.
The UN knew about the ship that could travel through dimensions?
Oh, maybe not. I don't remember.
Because I was
But
like, that seems like something you would want to investigate.
I think it's the Authority thing. Like, the Authority is when it really went super.
Okay, so maybe the Authority had that, but like that kind of thing of like these high-tech gadgets and stuff that superheroes
no one
have.
wanted to pay for the Avengers, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So these people.
And I just want to mention, so just to run ahead of it really quickly, Jenny Sparks shows up and asks them for intel, basically.
Yeah, because they used to be like the guys in the chair. They were like the liaisons with the government.
Yeah, and this is why like Warren Ellis annoys me. Like later on, he got better of this, but this is the era where you really went hardcore on this. This is X-Men 2, where the established characters are like, "Fuck you." Like Jenny Sparks comes there. And she's like, I need your information, tell me it. And they're like, okay, we'll tell you because you used to be our former friend, Jenny Sparks. And then she was back to Authority and she's like, I just did that to humor them. Like, they're useless to this plot. I knew everything they were going to tell me anyway. Like, Warren Ellis to make everyone during this era, Warren Ellis made everyone before he came in, like, so, like, job to his pet characters.
Yeah.
Jenny Sparks rules. She's my favorite Authority character.
She's your favorite?
Yeah.
Jenny Sparks is cool, but I don't see why you can't make these guys, like, at least give them intel. Like, why do you have to make it so you get so awesome? Like, you killed off everyone's Stormwatch. You couldn't give these guys the ability of giving intel. Like, you had to make them completely useless.
No, that happens. Yeah, like Sly mentioned in his X-Men run, he has this guy, Pete Wisdom, who's just like, I'm a super cool guy. I know everything. I'm going to bang Kitty Pryde.
I can see
He's
that.
a lot better at that now. Like, now he's actually like, what if I take this character and develop him and use my concepts?
Which again is a very like Edgelord thing to do, is to make your character seem better. They shit on everyone that's inferior to them, or they're like, oh, they're useless.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the reason why I might side with Darryl in the story, because it's not as good as I remember it being.
When you said Jenny Sparks is my favorite, I made a look like I had smelled very pungent, like cheesy fart. I was like, I think I'm just already gonna spoil. I think I really still I love Midnighter. I love Gay Batman so much.
Midnighter is really good.
This actually made me like him a little more.
It actually made me like him less.
Oh.
Funny.
Well, I didn't like him at all before, so this is like
You go from 0 to maybe like 1 or 2 likes.
I think it's because I've seen the concept 3 times already, and I think Prometheus is a better version of this concept.
I don't know. I think representation matters, Sly.
It'd be cool if Prometheus and Midnighter had sex together, right?
Oh,
guys, who's Nemesis?
That's
Don't worry about
Prometheus. That's Mark Millar's Prometheus.
Okay.
This is Warren Ellis's Prometheus.
Yes.
And who?
I'm like, I can't keep these like
made
snarky
Prometheus?
like.
Grant Morrison created
Grant
Prometheus.
Morrison.
I can't fucking take all these same characters. They're like, I'm just so cool. I know everything before you already know it, and everyone's like, what? And then he punches
for what
him in
it's
the
worth,
face.
Prometheus is a villain, and Midnighter is gay and a hero. I think those are different enough.
also the reason why we're getting to this talk now. The reason why I like Prometheus the best is because in Grant Morrison's first writing of Prometheus isn't like I'm standing here, punch me, and everyone's like I can't. He's planning ahead too much. He actually goes step by step, taking out each of the Justice League one by one, and he finds ways to save all their powers one by one. and make perfect sense. And you actually it's like remember how you bitched about how you hate when people just say I win in plots, and you like when you see them play through like how they win.
Yeah.
Prometheus, when Grant Morrison wrote him, did that.
Yep.
No one else did that. Prometheus, but that's why Prometheus is the best because he at least had a period where that happened to him where he actually had to plan things out. While Midnighter is just like, I'm gonna beat your ass now, and he does.
Midnighter's like, you stand no chance against me. Like, I'm just gonna beat you, and they're like, what?
I will say, I think their powers as a team are all actually really cool. Reading through this, I'm like, they all have really cool powers, but in the action scenes, at least the first 6 issues that we've read, they don't really showcase how cool they are. They just blow everyone up.
A lot of times it's more about like the destruction, like showcasing that. Then you get occasionally like the Doctor being like, okay,
the Doctor's the only one exception.
Yeah,
the Doctor, I will argue, does showcase.
Yeah, I like the Doctor a lot too.
He's the coolest. That's why he's my favorite.
And Jack Hawksmoor. I really love the idea of a city druid.
Yeah, Jack is my favorite out of all because I do like second. I do get why Ryan likes Jenny more than probably Darryl does. Yeah. But Jack, I just always found his power really interesting. I just really think, and I think personality wise, he's like that kind of British like a badass, but not as much as like Midnighter or the other characters.
Yeah, they're not trying so hard. Like Jenny is like a fucking Lady Guy Gardner, where she's just like,
That's a good comparison.
I'm a fucking asshole, like off the handle. I'm like, okay.
So one thing I do want to say about these characters that so Warren Ellis takes over Stormwatch and writes it for I think 3 years, and he slowly introduces this whole team. And I actually like Stormwatch a lot more than the Authority.
Yeah, me too. We said this already.
And I think it showcases the characters more, and I think that they work well together as books because Stormwatch is much more like exploring their personalities and their characters.
What is the difference between Stormwatch and Authority?
Stormwatch was their team that disbands, and then they relaunch as the Authority. Okay. So the Authority is like the sequel to Stormwatch. Yeah. And the Authority is more... The reason why we didn't do Stormwatch is because the Authority is more bombastic, edgy, global politic, and less small and personal.
Yeah, Stormwatch is more... like the first story arc of Stormwatch is like them, like all of like so much American members, and the first story turns like American politicians behind everything, and like oh shit, like our country betrayed us, like it's that kind of story.
And that was in '96.
Yeah.
So like. I think that they work better together than separate. So, like, you know, we're not getting a lot of exploration of powers or, like, a lot of interpersonal stuff because Ellis had already been doing that for 3 years. That I think they wanted to go bigger Hollywood.
I could see. Because this, like, going into this really doesn't let you get a good feel for the characters, like, in the beginning and stuff.
What they say about Jack is they name him the god of the cities or something, and they just show you occasionally he's, like, phasing through, like, buildings, but they never tell you he gets powers from cities or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, that was like kind of explored like so much in the past, but because it's not super edgy, we're here to talk about the Authority. But
that is important context though, because I was thinking that like Darryl probably won't like this because we're not getting all the personal stuff. This is all like the stuff he hates about comics, like Ultimate's about even the small character moments in between.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, they relaunched it as a #1. People don't talk about Ellis' Stormwatch as much as they talk about the Authority. The Authority gets
this is fair. This is perfectly fair. We're doing this separate. It's perfectly fair. People recommend this alone.
Absolutely, yes. And the Authority gets reprinted constantly, and like Stormwatch doesn't.
Yeah, this isn't impossible to read alone. It's just like it's rocky at places.
But but I want to give the context.
But for instance, like Jenny being electricity never gets explained how much electricity she is or why she's immortal.
Yeah. So you know, but that, like I said, those are all completely fair. Complaints that, like, you know, I like Stormwatch better. I think it's just better, a better book.
Back to actually.
Let's get to the global. I'm gonna put this in quotes. Politics of the Authority. It's fucking stupid.
So we cut to Gamora Island.
I fucking
where
hate this so much.
It's off the Asian continent, and
Gamora Island is an island made out of different Gamoras. They're all like waging war on humanity.
Phil, did you enjoy how he went from China's like their 10 heroes in 52 to this guy?
This guy.
It's Fu Manchu. It's Fu Manchu, Yellow Terror kind of shit.
No, it's worse because he has a country that is based their whole philosophy is terrorism. Yep. And he's like, I'm not even doing it for ideology. I just love terrorism. And it's like, cool. What? This is politics.
He does raise a point later on, his motivation, which we'll get to a little. But this guy's always been an asshole. He like was part of like this team of brothers that like ran this village, and then they were so good, they were so edgy and strong that they took over the country.
It's one of those where it's like they took over the country by the time they were like 14 or something, like the Edgelord impossibility.
They made it into an island factory for terror by 18.
And by 20...
I like not to give this book too much credit, but I view this as like, because like whenever you like look at the world, you see like assholes like Kim Jong-un or whatever. who are just pure evil, and the Authority is mostly here to fulfill that visceral desire to see like a superior just come in and kill those people. That's
yeah, but it's always a bit more complicated because a lot of nations are about like personally promoting their nation above others, not like, well, I just want to terrorize. Like this felt like reading this again. I'm like, this is Crime Bible again.
That's how I felt too. It's the fucking.
So now hold on.
I view the Authority as a whole as just visceral like satisfaction for killing objectively like
dictators.
So, okay, one thing I want to point out. Is it fleshed out enough? No, but he mentions this in an exposition dump later on, that in his country, he had taken over the country and killed his brothers, and he was like the supreme leader of this country, and Stormwatch was sent in by the UN, and they had a huge casualty rate in his country.
200 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, they killed a couple hundred people, right? Or 100 people or whatever. And now he just wants revenge on everybody. He doesn't want to take over the world. He doesn't have ideology. He just wants everyone to suffer for revenge.
People do actually think that way. That is how people join Taliban, because people like America bombs their wedding party and stuff.
Yeah, and also he was captured by the American Superman, by Apollo, and tortured in an American like military camp. And now he just wants to watch the world burn.
I get that it's more than just like I was born hating everyone. It's just weird to me, like apparently it was already an island factory for terror by the time the UN came in, and
and by 20 he had already killed both of his brothers. Where it's
so he's already evil.
But I mean people are evil.
But also people like it's like the fucking ISIS. That might have helped the projected power. Like people who found ISIS are probably objectively pure evil, but they got propelled to power by the rest of the country being like, let's have revenge on America, probably.
Yeah, and I think having an American military torture camp radicalized this guy to want to watch the world explode in 1999 is pretty fucking good.
Sure,
personally.
but that's why it'd be more believable if we want to terrorize America. We want like revenge against America, not just bring terror to the.
But it was a UN coalition, right?
Yeah, so much is UN.
Yeah, it was a UN coalition,
sure.
but
the UN
yeah.
then.
Yeah, I mean
that's the world. Right?
That's the whole world.
But it's not.
It's the UN.
Yes, it is.
It kind of
Are
is.
you mean those Chinese superheroes from fucking 52 saying, "Oh, we know just the side of America is really truly America. Get the fuck out of here, GSA"? Are you trying to argue semantics?
I mean, so the two cities that he attacks Moscow, and then spoilers, he's going to attack LA. Those, if you're going after the UN, I mean, I feel like those are two big hits.
And London
They are.
too.
Oh yeah, and London. So yeah,
It's him saying like, I want to bring terror to the earth and not like to the west or something like that.
But that's why I find this weird. Like, this one guy's like a small island country that's based on terrorism, and he's like, my plan, you know what? Fuck the entire world. I'm gonna make a team of Supermen to just blow up the world. It's like, okay, that's like what it's not Crime Bible. It's a little bit better, but it's like one step away for me.
I don't know. I'm into it.
Okay.
So anyway, Jenny is meeting with them again, with the two, Christine and Jackson. And it's the same kind of thing that Sly was saying, where they're like just, talking to them, but really they're going to do whatever. And she's like, we're going to stop them. And he's like, who? And she's like, a higher authority. And she teleports away.
Name drop.
Yeah.
Which just FYI, this is the coolest part about the Authority, in my opinion. If you say door,
the name drop,
a teleporter appears that you walk through, and you can instantly go back to the ship that's in another like dimension, but parallel to Earth. So you can teleport anywhere you want at any time you want by just saying door, and that is a really cool.
Whoever's editing it, like I wish you could edit in like Darryl when you first saw this concept, and like when the Midnighter saying this is so dumb, you could just teleport everywhere. Doesn't explain anything.
We can
I think that is an OP like power. But
I know, but I'm pretty sure like you and Phil were like, "What the fuck is this? You can just teleport everywhere. What the fuck is this door shit?"
Spoilers, that didn't happen. We actually didn't talk about the door much at all. Anyway, back to the podcast.
So they go back to their ship, the Carrier, which, as Darryl said, it's in the bleed, which is the space between dimensions. So the ship is sentient and travels kind of wherever it wants, and they can go to it all the time, and they go from world to world, like you said. And right now they send Jack Hawksmoor to Moscow to survey it personally, because he is always in touch with the cities. Like he's like,
and he's got nosebleed because the city is dying.
Yeah, so he's like a druid, like a nature spirit.
I said this right. He's a reverse druid.
Oh, did you say that?
Yeah, he did.
Yes. Was my mic cut off?
No. Ryan just doesn't listen to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan always bitches I don't listen.
Okay. You guys don't listen to each other. It's okay.
Yeah. We've been through this a dozen times.
So he gets as Sly so eloquently put, his nose is bleeding because the city's burning, and he sees that there's this residual radiation he recognizes. Then we get some more exposition about nanomachines, and we now get some more exploration of who this Dr. Shaman character is.
Yep.
He's the Shaman is a super name. The Doctor is his real name. And what he is the latest in these like shaman figures that is he has the memories of everyone that came before him, and he's communing with the previous one who was a member of Stormwatch. And
we learned that he's a junkie, and he says like, "Why'd you pick me? I'm a junkie. I can't do this." And the shaman's like, "You can do this. I believe in you. We believe in you. You have the knowledge of 1,000 generations before you."
And he says a key line here that he's like, magic's real, and magic is just change. You can change the world. Magic is nothing but change. And so a lot of the shaman's power is he's like, oh, I can just change things to other things.
Yeah, like he changes a jet into just a bunch of roses, or he can change things to leaves or like trees and stuff.
And so we now Jenny and the engineer are just sitting around, talking about, the team and stuff like that. And then the dynamic duo is introduced, which Jenny says mockingly, as Midnighter and Apollo come in.
I think that's another reason why Jenny was getting to me is she also calls them Bert and Ernie later. I'm like, just leave them alone. Like, of course, they're a couple. Let them be a couple.
They're very pompous, though.
This was the 90s. There were literally no gay characters.
Which is
90s.
true.
Like,
But it's like, it still doesn't like take away from the fact that that's still happening.
Yeah, but one thing that I do want to point out about Midnighter and Apollo, why I like them so much as characters, is even though she's like the asshole Guy Gardner type that's making fun of them, they're still real characters with personalities and powers. And like, even now, even in 2019, we have a lot of characters in fiction that are just like, they're the gay character and that's it. And like, that sucks a lot. And having them be like actual characters with roles and motivations and jobs on the team is I think like, great.
Yeah, they're characters that so far in this entire run, you wouldn't tell that they're gay unless you're reading into Jenny's like lines derived.
Yeah, and I just thought that they, out of the whole team, they're like the most like edgy serious that I'm like, people do make fun of people who are too serious. Like,
That's true.
Also, they are dual. They retired together after so much quit, and now they're back together. Like they're like a pair. You get one, you get the other. But it's not explicitly say like, oh, they're gay.
Yeah.
And also having the two edgiest, like gruff guys be the gay ones is like a really nice subversion of.
I didn't remember until you guys said it that Apollo was gay. I remember Midnighter was. I didn't remember Apollo was. Until
If you remember when we read Midnighter, that was after him and Apollo had broken up. I always felt bad for him.
It's so fucking funny. Darryl remembers Midnighter book more than I do.
Because he's gay. It's such a good idea. I like it.
When you said Midnighter was fuck Prometheus, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that book was so good.
Yeah.
All right.
But okay, so now we're back at the carrier, and well, we're still there. We haven't left, and it's fast forward to later where Jack reveals that the radiation that he saw was teleportation residue. So that's how they got all those guys to Gamora Island. They teleported all in the like massive weapons of Superman, and the engineer notices that, oh, that radiation just spiked in London, Jenny's hometown. They are now bombing London. But this time the authority's there and they start fighting them all off. And
this is where they introduce everyone. They're like, here's this guy,
powers.
Here's that guy.
Yeah. And they show up. They're just like kicking a lot of ass.
Swift
and killing a lot of
is so
people.
underpowered for this team.
Swift,
she's like
not just underpowered.
like,
she's just like useless. I'm like,
yeah.
So many of these other people can do so much, and then you have just like hot girl flies around. At least Midnighter, he's useless, but like on one-on-one, he'll always win the fight. So it's like that's his use.
Yeah, that's not useless. It's not useless.
So the funny thing is like, in the regular book, I would like Swift would be like my favorite. The problem is this book is so built on look how badass and the unstoppable these guys are that Swift feels out of place. Like this is not like underdog.
Yeah, she hasn't.
Book.
It feels like she doesn't have any good lines. She doesn't really like have a strong personality so far in the Authority. It's just she's the one that's always just in the background where everyone else takes center stage.
She's one of the few people on the team Warren Ellis didn't create.
Yeah, and she also does tie into like I feel like everyone else is like tying into like, we're saving the world. Like Apollo is like Superman. Superman is a save the world type of character. Batman is like the master planner. Jenny Sparks.
She's the Captain America, the leader.
Shaman. Yeah. Like I like Swift is just I am Swift.
Yeah.
And actually, I liked everyone's powers but her.
Same.
She can fly.
Oh, excuse me. Great.
So
power.
then we get, like most Brian Hitch books, it ends with a full-page spread of the team doing a dramatic pose and Jenny saying, game over.
Brian Hitch books or Mark... Oh, wait. That was Brian Hitch, too. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That was good. I like that.
Okay.
Before I also want to state real quick to emphasize how much like Warren Ellis fucked over the Authority. I mean, the Stormwatch. He didn't just kill them at the end of the Stormwatch book. He killed them in the Stormwatch Aliens tie-in, a crossover book. Like those books are always like just disposable, like money-making things. He was like, I care about this team so little, I will kill them in what I would usually. Like, most Stormwatch fans won't even read Stormwatch Aliens tie-in
Now,
book.
let me just refresh. This is the book that you called unreadable before he took over?
I know, but also, I've read Ron Mars's run. Ron Mars's run supposedly does more respect while still keeping it this, like, 90s kind of style.
I think that's fair. I haven't read it either, so I don't know.
So, listeners who may be thinking, wow, we've only gone through one issue in 30 minutes, like I feel, I will say, now that we've gotten most of the description of the characters and stuff out of the way, we're going to breeze through this because there's almost no plot in this whole story. It's like 3 things happen.
Yeah, so like this is like the beginning of the modern age in like the best ways and the worst ways. Because if you buy a single issue, you're getting like 0 plot per issue for it.
Yes.
Like, I was just trying to think, man, what are the next 5 issues? And I'm like, oh, like, nothing happens. So,
It
what
was
is nothing,
reminding me
Sly?
how I mentioned where it's like Hitch's. You buy this for Hitch drawing scenes of destruction and the heroes.
Yeah,
being
civilians being killed. Like,
Yeah,
that's
there-
what happens. In
Brian, like a lot of Michael Millar books, the best way to view it is as like an art book for the showcase artist. Like I want to get an art book for Brian Hitch or
This is for Brian Hitch's resume, basically.
I want to watch babies get nuked.
I'm going to save my defense of this book for next episode.
Okay, makes sense when we're finished with this.
I also don't remember much about the second half, but the parts I do, like I remember ending it and really liking it. So we'll see if I said that about Ultimates 1 and 2.
Yes,
Bill.
you did.
Also,
Yes,
so we'll
yes,
see.
you did.
But just to back up, Ryan, I also barely remember the second half of this. I remember.
Great. I can't wait for something less memorable than this.
So the funny thing is about me. What I remember the strongest is Mark Millar's run, which is my favorite Mark Millar book of all time.
All right, let's continue.
And his first issue has a character saying comic books are for retards. So it's a Mark Millar book, but I feel like it is edge. It is at least.
Also, isn't the villain fucking Jack Kirby?
Yeah, I think so. I forgot about that.
Guys, I'm gonna quit comics. I'm gonna quit this podcast.
But it is more like fucking like Punisher 2009, where it's so dumb, it's entertaining to me.
It goes back to being good.
like
Yeah. I just want to say, it's not that I don't remember what happens in this book. It's that I read Stormwatch and this so close together that there are character moments that I don't remember if it's in Stormwatch or the Authority.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, Sly, you're up.
Oh yes. So cover is more splash page stuff. They fight the Superman. Superman fight them.
It's a long fight scene. We do see the shaman trying to figure out his powers, and he's like, magic has changed, so he turns.
The engineer uses nanomachines so they could communicate through radio telepathy.
Yep.
Yes, and that's one thing I like to have. The word bubbles change for everyone whenever they communicate telepathically, so you know immediately.
Yep.
It's being communicated.
And they actually, like I always complain about in other teams, they actually use their powers together. Where their plan is to, they basically drop everyone into the river with Superman, and then Jenny Sparks electrocutes the river, so they all die.
Yep.
The anti-plan is Midnighter, who walks up to Superman holding a kid's hostage, saying, "I'm going to kill you." Superman's like, "How? That makes no logical sense." And then
Not
So when we're
Superman,
saying
the-
Superman, we mean the bad guys.
the bad
Yeah,
guys.
the bad guys. Yeah, he walks up to him and he's like, I've done this fight a million times in my brain. I'm what soldiers dream of growing up into. I'm what children see when they first imagine what death looks like.
And this is what I mean why it's bullshit, because you don't even see how he does it. It's off
Somehow.
panel. He's off panel.
It's because he says, I will hit you before you even know what's going on, and it shows you that it happens. You're like,
He has the
awesome.
child's neck like in his hands, and Midnighter's far away, and somehow he just loses that.
He's not that far, and he's also behind him.
I know, but this guy's a Superman. Like everything in Savage Now shows like he has like all these powers and stuff, and he can't.
It's stupid.
It is.
I know,
like,
it is.
and this is why Prometheus is better, because Prometheus would be like, I use a thing above you to kill you. Well,
Yep.
Yeah.
And then after the fight, what's cool too, I think, because I'm a sucker for like how does this play out like logistically? They have all the Supermen teleporting back to Gamora Island, and they have like them dropping into. They're teleporting the dead ones into the morgue area. They're teleporting the injured ones into like the crisis unit, and they have like 1,000 doctors on staff. As these Supermen are falling from the sky, they're like putting them on stretchers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one of
like-
them had their shirt. There's teleporting netting on their shirt. That's in the
Yes.
circle that's on their chest, and it gets ripped off by Superman. And then he's like, "Oh man, now I gotta
by
fly
Apollo.
back to by Apollo." And you can see like, "Oh man, I gotta fly back to Gamora Island now." So Apollo was following him at like full speed.
Yeah, Apollo realizes that's a teleporting netting, so he's like, now I gotta follow them. And the rest of Vorty's like, we gotta chase Apollo.
So this is the kind of stuff that I think why I like this book so much more, because it still hits the edgelord trappings we've come to expect. You have Midnighter giving this long monologue.
Yeah.
You get cuts to the villain just saying, I love no one for no reason.
Because he keeps doing like the brainwashing thing where he's like, I love you all. You are all my children. I love you. And then he's like alone. He's like, I love no one.
Yeah. But you're still getting a lot more interesting pacing and stuff where it's not just fights. Like you said, there's a whole layout, and we see Apollo. We see why he knows about the teleportation. That he lets the guy go so he could see where he's going back to. Yep. He chases him, and they are trying to stop him because he doesn't know where he's going. Like
no. It's that he's going. There's a barrier that gets put around Gamora Island.
I mean, like they don't know that he doesn't know that he's going to the barrier.
Yeah, and he's gonna splat into it. They say they've seen superheroes at his strength level explode going that speed, and so they're like, how can we possibly stop Apollo? And that's where the magic's always beat Superman's. So the Doctor comes in and brings him to a realm of kinetic energy or something.
He brings him to a realm where kinetic energy is converted to music.
Brian touches on one reason why I'm not like as gung-ho for this as Mark Millar's run or as Ultimates is because it isn't that great as an Edgelord book. There's only one line that really made me laugh. Hawksmoor uses his phasing power to phase through a city, and Apollo or somebody says, "How'd you do that?" And he says, "You see, when a baby city and a mommy city and a daddy city love each other very much." That's like the only really witty one-liner in this entire book, I think.
But there's still there's the skeleton idea of like why edgelordy stuff became so popular.
I know,
in the
but
mid-2000s.
I feel like this is a skeleton. But it's like how Phil bitches about a sequel. Like Phil plays a sequel to the video game, and he hates the original because all the stuff that was done better in the sequel sometimes.
I don't know if I would say it's done better.
No, but the edgelordy stuff is so subdued.
That's fair.
It's so subdued compared to like Mark Millar's run, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they teleport.
Yeah, no one can out edgelord Millar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They save Apollo from splatting by putting him in that music land. They go back to the carrier, and they're
they bring him back right away. He's not like gone for a while.
Yeah. They have a brief chat about some shit about. This is a recurring conversation because Jenny has this recurring theme of somebody has to save the world. I decided I'm gonna be the one that has to save the world, and I arranged it 40 because it's gonna be me. It's gonna be me.
Yep, and then in classic Hitch fashion, you just get the stinger at the end is just her big face saying, "And someone, I'm the person that's gonna change it, the world."
Well,
and so you're what a stinger, what a full page.
That's
Great to see your plot.
That's a Mark Millar stinger, like.
Yeah.
No, ends on nothing.
That's why I'm like, is this Millar or Hitch, or did Millar?
I think it's got to be a Hitch
looked at this
thing.
and he was like, "This is a great idea." Full page at the end of every issue.
And but if this
I do want to say, I like a lot of people underestimate how much an artist affects the pacing of a story.
Yeah,
like Jim Lee, who draws, from '90s X-Men, like this iconic issue 1 of X-Men. A lot of my favorite writers, when they write for a Jim Lee book, I'm like, this feels so much more sluggish than your regular work. And it's probably because Jim Lee wants those big splash pages too.
Yeah. And I know we brushed through this scene, but it's Jenny talking to Apollo, and the thing that I like about it is it's like a character conversation where Jenny's talking about how she is not a good leader. She's brash, she's like kind of an asshole, but she feels like it's a gamble for her. She said, bad things happen when I run teams, but I tried not running a team and bad things happen too. That's how Moscow got destroyed. It's a hellish gamble for me, Apollo, but there had to be someone left to save the world and someone left to change it. So she's basically saying like, we stopped being superheroes and supervillains still existed. So somebody has to step up and not only save the world, but somebody else has to change it. And I like this concept of like, we'll save it and then we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, it's an interesting predicament where it feels like you feel like you're fucking up if you intervene, but when you don't do it, you still feel like bad things are happening. So it's like, may as well intervene then.
Yeah.
Go America.
Issue 3 opens with the superheroes, the Authority, going to the cleanup efforts in Moscow and London. They're, with their powers, helping the cities rebuild and find survivors and stuff. Swift does her first and only unique thing where she has super hearing, I guess, and she hears trapped people. Then we are back in the carrier, and they're talking about how do we get in there
between dimensions. I really like its design too. It's it looks very like needly. It's like a long ship with a lot of needles on it, like big eyes.
It's cool. Each time it's flying through somewhere, they explain like what weird concept it's flying through. Like later in this issue, it's flying through idea space, and there's a school of obsession fish that's flying near. Or like later, they're sailing through some psychic realm where all the telepaths on Earth, that's where like their brains are linked.
Their minds are connected, so it's all it's like 100 faces all blending together.
It's cool.
This is where you get
cool.
to see Warren Ellis be like the weird Warren Ellis that a lot of us really love. Like, he doesn't explore a lot of the concepts in this book, but it's just like things that flesh out the world and just make it more interesting and memorable and engaging than something else.
And it's so bizarre that you don't have to be in, like, how does this work? How do idea fish swim? You're just like, this is just a crazy place to
it's a
live.
dimension. Yeah, it's an idea dimension. Whatever. You can buy that. Okay, so then back on the carrier, they're basically saying, how do we get there? And someone...
because the
Apollo
force field
realizes,
now is
Apollo realizes this. If the door can go anywhere on Earth, can't we just door into Gamora Island? And they're like, actually. So then they're also like, but where are they gonna hit next? Because we gotta prevent it. And of course, the logo was. I thought this was also so dumb. The logo.
I actually like this.
Why would he make his organization from scratch with this logo, knowing one day I'm gonna hit these 3 cities?
He actually specifically says at the very beginning in his first scene, I was gonna mention this and I didn't, that he created his logo as part of a like smooth corporate new millennium brand, and he wants to like literally brand the world so people could see that he owns it.
Yeah. I always like guys doing massive destructive things to put like their sign
for pure vanity
on the world. Yeah, for pure vanity. Because I was like, I buy that as much as I buy like the terrorism thing, where it's like I'm just doing this to terrorize people. It's like, why not just be like, you know what? The world's now, these 3 cities are permanently destroyed because they're in the shape. If you put my ring on the Earth, it hits Moscow, London, and Los Angeles.
So now they know they're going to Los Angeles, and
he also says he made this logo when he made his plan, so it's not like a coincidence. Like this
it's
was
just
always.
It's just to me, it's like these 3 cities in particular. Fuck them. I'm gonna.
I think the fact that they set it up, at least it's not like a Mark Millar where it just arbitrary. What happens.
Also, like if I wanted to destroy the world, I feel like Moscow, L.A., and London are like.
Not bad
good.
places.
No capitals, no world. Not if you hate the UN so much, why not like the UN headquarters? Whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's not like he's picking fucking like Kansas City or something.
I know.
Like these are major.
They are major cities, and a lot of people live in these.
Yeah.
So then we go back.
No offense meant to Kansas City residents.
They go to Gamora Island.
Now Mitch McConnell's going to win re-election because of you.
The UN is talking to Kaizen now, the leader of Gamora Island.
I love this, by the way. They could even let the former Stormwatch people be the liaisons. They have another random guy be like, I'll talk to the boss.
This is when he says, "Hey, Stormwatch or the UN did a police action, and because of that, I love hating and terror." He grabs a geisha woman near him and starts cutting her face with his nails in the mark of his logo.
He makes the logo, which I'm like, okay, this guy really likes that logo.
Also, I love that the UN censored him, and he's like, and he just laughs in his face. He's like, "That's fucking nothing."
This is why I think of. I think this is like a talk about like dictators, because he says, "I'm in the world, a wolf in the world of sheep."
Yep.
So he's like, the world, like that's how Hitler got to power. He's like, everyone's so weak because they're afraid of war.
They're not willing to take action.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a weird. I get it, and I'm not like saying I can't buy this. It's like a weird thing though, where like he's like, if you do non-violent actions to me, you're a little bitch, but. If you do any kind of like troops on my soil, I'm gonna go crazy and destroy the rest of the world.
I'm gonna get mad for the rest of my life. How dare you?
Isn't that what like dictator strawmen do?
I also view it as you. I can take the loss of life, but you won't. Which is why most of the world is not willing to go to war with madmen.
Yeah,
because you don't. Sane people don't want the loss of life. We don't want to go with Kim Jong Un because we don't want to lose Japan and South Korea. Yeah. But like they don't care.
Yeah, okay, I can buy that. Then they're talking on the carrier again. Nothing.
And
really...
this is them being like, we're gonna send Midnighter in through the door. Right?
Yep. And he's gonna sneak.
This is when we get the Bert and Ernie talk. But the reason why I mention it is because everybody else on the team has given their Angie and Jennifer and like their regular names, and she asks Midnighter and Apollo like, "Come on, tell me your real names," and they're like, "No, we're just on this team. We're not opening up to you people at all." And that's why she calls them Bert and Ernie. Like, so and she like consistently mocks him. Not the Bert and Ernie thing isn't. I didn't read it as mocking as being gay, but it does make sense that way.
Yep.
It's because it's in the context of like because she keeps bringing it up. Like, Angie has a name. What's your name? And they're just like, no, we work here. We're not your friends.
So in Gomorrah Island, capital city, Midnighter's there, and this is another thing that I was like, this can't be a terrorist shithole because it's like super nice city. This looks like Tokyo or something. I'm like, how did I mean, I guess if this guy's whatever. Then Midnighter finds a cop. He's actually a Superman cop. He beats him up anyway. And
I like this because it is a nice fake out where he's like, I'm gonna beat this guy up, and then he's like, actually, I'm a Superman, and I don't think you're supposed to hit me, and they get into a fight.
Yeah. And then they go to LA to defend it, and like it ends with like 1,000,000 Supermen flying in. Full speed, and Jenny Sparks says, "I wish I had a cigarette."
The engineer did take her last cigarette.
A full splash panel just for, and again, it's not just the fact that it's a full splash panel just for like this one line. It's a full splash panel just for a zoom in close up shot. Like, it's not even an impressive shot.
Yeah.
How is Midnighter so strong?
Okay, so issue 4, Midnighter's fighting the Superman, and he's just dodging him, and he's like, I won this fight before you even turned up, and he just beats him up. Wow, for 3 pages of just him beating
these guys fly through buildings, and he's just a guy.
This deflates my appreciation for the previous issue, for that previous scene, because I was hoping, now he has to think of something, but he's like, no, he doesn't have to think of anything. That didn't trip him up for 1 second, the fact that this guy's Superman.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, I guess I'll beat you up next issue, and he does. Which, I like Midnighter because it's like the Death's Head thing where I'm like, just no one beats him. Anyone that gets in a fight, you just lose. That's it. That's your thing. Your power becomes in that fight, I'm gonna lose. Yeah, he's fun.
Sure.
Fuck you, sir.
Just continue.
You should have like Lobo and all the characters.
It's like liking Saitama, where just like you're just gonna lose if you.
No, it's like this guy's like Lobo.
No, Lobo's better because Lobo's can't beat everyone. Lobo's just unkillable. That's the very difference. Like
I think Midnighter rules.
People beat the shit out of Lobo all the time. Like his power.
I like Lobo and Midnighter now. So fuck you.
I think liking Midnighter is a disservice to Lobo and Prometheus. That's my opinion.
All right, continue.
So you have all these Supermen flying through these buildings and blowing them up, and they're like, all right, we got to go around to get them. And the Doctor's like panicking. He's like, I'm not ready for this. There's just so many of them. And the inner shaman's telling him, it's like, the means exist inside you, reach in and take it. So then he just like shines light and turns a bunch of them into,
and the art is excellent.
It is.
I think like you get when he's talking to the shaman, we see like the ghost of every previous shaman.
Yeah.
And
all the colors are inverted to show you it's like another dimension.
Yes, yeah.
And he it's cool because like I guess he can't destroy matter, obviously, because it's physics, but he like just turns them into like glass.
Pushes into glass, and then Jenny's like, "What the fuck? Now they're gonna cut us all up as it's falling." And then she's just like, "No, I'm gonna trim it to have trees grow out from the ground to catch the glass before."
And then he passes out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the thing that I like about it too is he wasn't just this like Deus Ex Machina, because they're like he took out half of the Force, so he did a lot, and like he saw his powers, but it wasn't just like done.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then you have
Just real quick, Jenny opens a door and drops him off back at the carrier.
Yep. Which is why the door's cool. You're like, yeah, there.
Yeah.
And then you have Apollo shooting Superman lasers at everyone, and then the engineer spreads out the nanomachines that are in her to make like a giant bubble of tiny nanomachines, and she says, extruding the machinery out into a web of knives small enough to slip between atoms. I'm like, I don't think the nanomachines are smaller than atoms.
They're nano. They're very tiny. What is nano? 10 to the negative 9? Come on.
Atoms are smaller.
Yeah, but
and it's like they're made of machinery, which is made of atoms. Like, come on.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, what like the
what if it's like Ant-Man or Atom, where they can control to be smaller than atoms?
Oh, like she makes the machine smaller.
Yeah,
it's just like it would make sense if she's like make it small enough to slip between cells, and then you're cutting them up by like cellular level.
But then it wouldn't be an Edgelord book if it wasn't so like why.
You got me
there. I rigged your womb 10 years before you even knew I existed.
Yeah. Then you have Jack Hawksmoor. Every time he punches someone, he always punches like through their head, exploding their brains or exploding their jaw.
You know, like cities do.
Yep. And then it cuts back to Midnighter, and he's found out that they're making all of these Gomorrah Supermen out of like they're cloning them out of vats, and then they're teleporting them places. So it's like clearly you can't stop them if this if this production is allowed to continue.
He's splicing the bad guy's splicing his brother's DNA so that with them. So I guess this guy has superpowers too?
No, he's along with his terrifying and beautiful mother, so we don't know what powers she has.
Oh, okay.
But then,
because he's just walking around with a crossbow.
Midnighter's just like, all right, so see you later, and he teleports away from the bad guy, and he's like, I gotta find a bigger, you gotta.
He says how all I know how to do is how to punch stuff. So now I have these things too big for me to punch. So I guess something that I can punch you with, and he gets the carrier ship to punch the fucking.
Yeah, he literally says, "My father taught me hit the soft parts with your hand, hit the hard parts with the utensil."
Yep. And so he drops the carrier down.
This is the only Midnight I say like because it's the only time that's actually feels like it makes sense. Yeah, you should stop and think.
Into Gamora Island and destroys the bad guy city, and the bad guy right before he dies says, "I only wanted to have some fun."
And Midnighter says, "I love being me."
Yeah, and then kills him.
This is like the most edgy fucking shit.
Oh, it's so
but
good,
it's like Sly said, it is edgelord, but it's edgelord to people that like deserve it, which I can see like that being like more fun than just like killing children, being like, I love being me.
They don't often show civilians being killed too much in this compared to like Mark Millar, where every scene is some child.
I mean, you're still
like,
seeing a lot of destruction, like buildings blowing up and stuff.
Yeah. I view it as Mark Millar forgot the cause, like the cause.
The
of
cause.
What,
He forgot what he was championing the edgelord cause for.
What am I doing this for?
Because the satisfying part of it is like this stuff that's happened in the real world, and now like you get to see superheroes carry out revenge for like the fallen people.
Yeah, against
Mark
despots.
Millar thought that was the people were reading because he saw people dying. Like, wow, people are dying. I'm gonna buy this book.
And then in that same vein, it cuts to L.A. where there's a bunch of dead bodies and stuff all around, a bunch of the dead Superman bodies. And Swift says, "Did we win? How many people you think we killed?" And Jack says, "How many people would have died if we hadn't been here?" It's not a great answer, I know, but it's the best there is. We saved more people than we killed. That'll do it for me. And like something like that is just like more like they address that it sucks that people died, and it's not just like the issue doesn't end on the hoorah moment. It ends on this like
it's a good take on war in general, where I think everyone wants to be like, well, it's always immoral to go to war, but it's like if you don't, like, you're gonna have collateral damage when you go to war. But
these
sometimes
Supermen flying around nuking cities. It's like gotta stop.
Like, what are you going to again going back to Sly's Hitler thing? It's like, people are like, I don't want to have civilians die in war, but it's like, what's the alternative then? Is that he, takes over and civilians are going to die anyway. That sometimes it's a lose-lose situation, but you're trying to minimize
casualties.
But one of the things Jenny says too is she says, they're going to scramble agencies into Gamora and a team of United Nations inspectors. So it'll be a UN team, not a single country, that'll find the bioreactor and teleport system. The UN will be holding the ways of mass-producing human tissue from DNA scrapings. They'll be holding a revolutionary mass transit system, and they'll know that we know they have it.
Yeah,
so give it 5 or 10 years. So give it 5 or 10 years of testing and bidding and building, and the world will be a better place. And she makes an announcement to the UN throughout the whole world, saying, "This is Jenny Sparks speaking for the Authority. You're not alone." And I really like the way that ends, where they don't keep it for themselves in like the the Mark Millar, like the Ultimates, like we're the only ones that can hold on to these keys. She says, "We'll give it to the world, and if the countries try to bogart it for themselves, we will remind the world that they have this." Because the problem wasn't the technology. The problem was that this one terrorist country had it. If everybody has it, socialism, it would be great.
Or if everyone had nukes.
It would be great.
But I mean, she's talking about like mass transit and teleportation and all these kind of things. And
which could be very dangerous.
Yeah.
Instantaneous invasion.
But would you rather have just one country have it? I don't know. It's an unexpected way for an edgelord arc to end.
Yeah.
And so that's the end of our first arc, and now we're going to go halfway through the second arc, because that's
2 issues
where we're reading up to. Yep, of 4.
Yep.
Yes. So it opens with,
and I think for at least to clarify, the first arc was so whatever. It's one of those. It's difficult because having been inundated with a lot of edgelord stuff, I'm just like whatever against like going in and destroying this small evil island of Supermen stuff. Whereas this one was so confusing. I'm trying to figure it out, or I'm like, what is happening?
to bitch about monocomics a bit some more. This also sets up the formula for monocomics as well. Because the first arc of every monocomic is usually just introduction and nothing happening.
Yeah, it's like
and
fluff.
Then the second arc is when things that start happening. But the second arc is also where the book usually gets canceled. So good job.
Yeah, luckily the Authority didn't get canceled. So
luckily.
So it opens with these like blue guys talking to these English dudes.
They look like drow elves.
They look like dark elves, but the English guys are wearing like pretty old school outfits, but there's obviously modern technology, so it's like
so you're like,
something's off.
Yes, and they're talking like some weird stuff about Sicily,
Yeah.
and
That
they're
they need
like
war. His
And the
family-
Windsor and Sicily are related, which is, and then for me, I'm like, this is not real Earth.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's like the point that
Yeah.
they're I got that too,
Yeah.
sure, and they're walking through what seems to be like this like
Party.
party,
It's like a palace orgy or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got aliens and humans there. And
This guy,
happens
it's
in
basically
this
like
scene?
the dark elves just walking around with this guy that's pretty much just like shitting on him the whole time.
This guy's a racist. This guy, because he looks like a British I'm not that conquistador, but like a British imperialist, and he's like, you
Yeah.
alien
he
scum.
requests to be called Your Majesty.
Yeah, he's
He's
like,
the king
all
of
these
England.
people love their king, and then he hears, "And do you love your king, Windsor?" And he's like, "Regis, where are you, Regis?" And he can't
This-
find
this,
him.
This is so stupid because he was mocking a guy who's basically a guy who can hear him from any point.
Yeah,
And
so
he does call this place Albion.
This whole scene was just
Yeah,
to
right.
have this guy be like, I'm a racist, and now I'm gonna die to show how badass the final boss is. And it's
Yeah,
like,
Albion is like some weird England,
Yeah.
where aliens are here too.
yeah, and this guy's like dark side basically.
Yeah, he shows up, he has horns, and he's like, Lebensraum? Going back to Hitler again? I really like that. Let's go eat kids.
I'm gonna go eat the kids of this guy that I just killed, the racist guy.
Yeah, and then-
yeah.
Which is again where I was like, such edgelord.
Well, actually, the way it's worded, I'm hungry, Ingvi. Windsor had children, didn't he? And that's how it ends. It's like, great.
It's funny because even knowledge books do introductions like this. Like,
I know.
I'm so bad.
But this is especially edgy because we see his brains and guts on the floor, and
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
it's
But
ridiculous.
if they cut away, it'll be just as edgy as a lot of modern stuff anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we cut to the carrier where they're all just like chilling and drinking beers in like this little dome and looking out over that telepath world we
Yep, and
mentioned.
Angie's talking about how much she misses like her past life, like shouting at garbage men, which I was like, huh? Making orange juice, missing the bus, being in the lab, being a physicist.
Yeah.
technologist.
The engineers only gets any character those personal moments you talked about. This book lacking because it talks about her giving up her life as a normal person.
Because
I think
her and the doctor are new, I believe. Because they're like the people that had our name before us are dead now, and we're the new version of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the engineer, she's not always in like covered in nanotech. Sometimes she's just like a person. So, and the thing that I really like about this is she doesn't just miss being like a nobody, which I feel like is something you see with superheroes all the time.
Yeah.
She misses being a physicist and someone reaching technology.
Yeah.
No, but
It's
she
just
says
like-
she says she misses the little things like shouting at garbage men.
Yeah, I know,
making
but like
orange
I
juice.
like that those aren't separated, where it was like non-sciencey stuff and now sciencey stuff. Like I like that she also misses just being a researcher.
Like having a job as opposed to being a superhero.
yeah.
She says how but somebody needs to do it. It's a job. It's a dirty job. But somebody's got to do it. Somebody needs to see the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And the reason why she can't stop is because she replaced her blood with nanomachines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So she's like-
it's funny because people always say like, I got these powers, I can't stop. You really could. Like you could just make
Yeah.
money or some shit.
Yeah. But like we saw like Jenny
I
had
know
the
the idea is
character
that they're so
before,
moral,
she
but
talked
like
about-
acknowledge it's a moral choice you're making.
Yeah, yeah. So then we cut back to LA where they're rebuilding everything. The area due for completion, summer 2001.
So 2
And then-
years.
Yeah.
But
so then there's
too bad.
a big cut in the sky and this like blue. It reminds me of the crack from season 5 of Doctor Who if anybody's seen it. But there's like this big like long wide portal that opens up and a whole fleet of these like alien ships, but also these like very English looking spaceships with javelins.
I love that. There's guys on these like flying motorbikes, and they have like a shield and a big lance.
For jousting.
They're like they're jousting, and next to them are like actual like spaceship-looking things with like a weird distorted UK flag.
Yeah.
I also stand corrected. So much does help in these issues. They call authority saying, "Hey, can you help us?" And authority's like, "Okay."
Yes. Yeah. So then
Yeah.
they call in, the people that Sly is upset they keep getting dunked on.
The U.S. Air Force shows up and gets owned.
I'm upset because I know the Weatherman at least, and I know and this echoes too much of his X-Men run where Pete Wisdom like jobbed Colossus. Like they made
Yeah.
Colossus look worse. So
He didn't
Pete
just
Wisdom-
job him, he cucked him too. But
Yeah,
that's
he
different.
cut Colossus, Phil. Like,
Oh my
where-
God.
like this was like
a crime, an unforgivable crime.
Oh,
So You see like the actual conventional military show up, and like they'd like to do in all these kinds of stories, they're like, your regular military won't save you now because they get owned. You need the superheroes to come in.
Yeah, get shot up with lasers. It's a lot of pages wasted on just showing the Marines get blown up.
But yeah, when Jenny sees these ships, she goes, "Oh my God, sliding Albion! They're supposed to be dead." And they're like, "What? Tell us what you know." But in the meanwhile, Apollo's blowing up everything.
Yeah,
and
which again, it's like is Hawk Girl or Midnighter? Neither of these guys can really do anything.
But they're not doing anything. Which
But they're
I like
still
here.
brought here, and they can't even fly. People need to carry them. I'm like, just don't bring
Oh,
them.
this brought in another element of fucking modern comics where the whole team comes in, they all manage to do something, even though back in the old days, you
Midnighter
had,
and Swift don't do anything.
I know,
why
but it's
bring
funny.
it?
I know, but like in the 90s, you would have like Batman hang back because he can't do anything in some fights. But now, everyone comes
Now
in.
Superman's bringing Batman in personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're
Well,
like,
but-
your both hands would be more
But
useful than
I
not.
would rather them show up here and not do anything than have them.
Oh yes, you're right. You're right. Hunter's right. Yes, you're right.
I'd rather
Like,
have
I don't
them,
wanna
I'd rather
see-
have them on the ground helping civilians
Oh yeah,
escape.
no, I would rather that too. But I would, if they have to be in this scene, I'd rather them not be like smashing through planes and just like on the side.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of would like Midnighter just dropping through multiple
Fuck
things.
you.
I've
Oh,
seen
God.
how this fight goes. I'm gonna drop through.
It would
the
be
plane.
it would be cool if he doored on top of each plane and then doored away.
How did
exactly.
me?
That's why Doors is awesome.
Yeah, because especially for a guy like him, he's like, I've seen how I take out this plane. I've seen how I take out this plane. Whatever.
And Edgelord August really brings out the weirdest sightings.
It doesn't. It doesn't matter, guys. Let's finish
But
this.
anyway,
I guess.
it
I can't
ends
believe
not.
me and Darryl switched places on the character.
No. But it ends not with a full page spread, which is nice. It ends with one small panel of, well, it's first on the page, the doctor's like turning the planes to dust, and then Jenny
to
just
leaves
says,
because he likes autumn. He's turning the summer heat of the explosions into autumn.
very cool.
He's a good
And
character.
Jenny, they're like, what's going on? What's going on? And Jenny says, we're being invaded by an alternate Earth.
I was like, oh. I was also like, comics are such bullshit, but I'm like, hey, alternate Earths probably would be like, let's invade.
Yeah. Well, they go into more detail.
Yeah,
in the next issue,
I
right,
think the exposition
Sly?
in this next one actually is okay. There's a lot of exposition in this next issue.
So it opens with Jenny from the block talking about her past.
Jenny from the past.
This is when they do all the exposition of what this alternate Earth is. Since she's been around for 100 years, she says when she was younger.
Okay, so
in her early
maybe
days.
you guys have to fill me in because I didn't gather like.
Phil, do you just want to do this issue?
Sure, yeah. All right.
So it opens with Jenny like smoking cigarettes in like World War II era. It looks like I don't know.
It's like 1920, and she's saying that when she was younger, she basically saw that these ships appeared in England in 1920, and the aliens existed, right? And they are basically in an alternate universe. And then by the 50s, they have like mingling between aliens and our Earth people.
Yeah. We're having sex with them. They're having sex with us. We're making blue babies.
But I really love the way she describes the 20s as an age of scientific romance, where she was like, I was 20 years old when I stopped aging, and Earth stopped making sense of at the same time. One minute we had the special theory of relativity, and the next someone rewrote the entire laws of physics.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's such a cool idea where they're just like, physics are different now. And like, as someone who went to school for physics, I can't imagine knowing about physics and then all of a sudden quantum mechanics comes out.
Yeah. And so we see that the higher ups in the British government and the alien governments like are mingling and having parties, and they basically hide it from the people by saying that the people who work with the aliens are part of like the British space group or something, and which is what Jenny's part of.
And they turn it into like a propaganda thing where they're like, look, it's the new British Airways, and like, you know, they're teaching it as like science fiction today.
They're basically using the alien tech on our world and trading with them. And so, yeah, they're saying, like, we invented this with our space program, but really they're getting it from aliens. And then bad things happen in the alternate reality where the alternate reality, sliding Albion, Europe, like, England, goes to war with Europe. Basically, they have their own World War I at the time. Yeah. And apparently it's going really bad. They know that they're going to start using bacterial weaponry, and right before they die, apparently a big bacteria attack was going to hit sliding Albion's London, and right before it hit them, they opened up that crack in the sky and tried to send all the bacteria to our London.
They tried to vent it to our world.
It didn't save them. They're dying out because one is contempt for us.
Yeah, so then they're gone. They died in this bacterial attack. World War I killed them. The end.
Wait,
we think.
so
But
this
did
is what,
it
this,
kill
that-
them?
That's what I'm about to ask. So that is a mystery because I can't tell if I can't read or
No,
I
they
don't
didn't
think it's
die
a
from it.
mystery because we saw last issue they're still around.
I mean, it's a mystery how they survived when everyone thought they were dead.
oh yeah. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Probably, it just because the capital got taken out doesn't mean like the country could be so crippled that it didn't like hang out with our Earth anymore, but they didn't like die.
Yeah.
And then now we cut 50 years later. They're back in our
Just a little
world.
question: how did Jenny know about this?
She was
was
on
there.
she was there on the space group.
But
the alien
like,
space
I
group.
don't think she saw from their perspective. How did she know?
Yeah, I feel like there's liberties taken with that. They knew World War I was going on at the time.
They called.
So, how does she know?
them.
Like it says,
they got a
it
message
didn't save them. She says it didn't save them. So how does she know it didn't save them?
because
Well, they have a shift door that they can go.
yeah.
I know,
You have constant relations with this one country.
I know,
the
but
last thing you hear from them.
I feel like the story should have shown what happened. Like, why would she not see what happened to them? And how would she
One
know?
thing to point out: we're halfway through the arc, Sly.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Also,
Saw, you don't know. Saw, you don't know.
They said we guessed they were trying to save them from an attack. They control the shift door. I think. I don't think we do. Like I think the alternate reality guys do, and they stopped making contact with us. So they were like, they're dead.
Yeah.
You know.
I think it's weird for Jane to assume that.
I mean, she explicit. I
I don't think they'll after
Sorry.
they try after
Wait.
a past fight.
We hang out with another country. They say,
No, but
"Oh my God, we're going to
they
war."
just tried to kill
They-
you. Will they open communication right after saying sorry for killing you?
I mean, she does specifically say later, like, we waited for like 20, 30 years and we still couldn't get in touch with
I
them.
just seems weird.
I'm on your side. I think you could have had a page at least like showing visually a little bit more
Yeah.
of an indicator of what happened, rather than the bacteria being dumped on London and then that's it. Then being like, we thought they were dead, now here they are. Like, here's a full page of just more war scenes of ships fighting each other.
There's so many filler pages. You could have spared a page to show that.
Yep.
I agree. Most of this issue is like dogfighting. They're fighting on whatever. One of the ships goes down, and Midnighter and Jack Hawksmoor like board it, and they say in great terms, "Hello, welcome to Los Angeles. We're here to hit you."
Yeah.
The British guys are like, "For glory, for Sicily, and for England."
This is also Jack Hawksmoor says his line about mommy and daddy city. So the Edgelord is getting there. Like, where else is getting more comfortable if the Edgelord is here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically, they're losing the fight, and so the Sliding Albion people are like, "We got to get out of here."
Well,
Go
Jenny
back to the
somehow
door."
like makes a big version of herself. I can't tell if
she makes like an electric field, I think, around.
So she says, I know each and every one of your vessel radios is receiving my voice. I'm damn sure some of you remember who I am. This Earth remains under my protection. Those vessels passing through me are getting their electrical system torched. That is the least of what I can do to you. Get the hell out of here. So she makes a huge electromagnetic field that looks like her.
She is is she not like a physical embodiment of electricity? That's what it seems like.
That's what it seems like to
She
me.
is, yeah.
That's what it seems like.
Okay, so because she like makes like an electric field that is her, I think.
Because there's something I forget like what her deal was, but I remember she was like some kind of magical kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
So they flee. Some of the ships got captured. They're back to the carrier. She basically explains what we know now to the group, where she's like they're from an alternate reality.
She said that was a raiding party.
Yeah, aliens showed up to their Earth. Like actual aliens showed up to their Earth in the 1500s. So instead of being at our tech level, from the Renaissance on, they had alien tech in Europe. So
Yeah. And the aliens bred with royalty.
right, so all the royals of Europe were part alien, and she said that like us, when imperialism started, they needed to go have war and imperialize. So once they ran out of places to invade on their Earth, I guess they invade
they're
us.
imperialists that never stopped imperializing. So they're like, other Earths have lands we can imperialize.
Right. And then they call, because apparently they have one of the aliens from the alternate world in captivity on our Earth, and she calls the United Nations, British
Isn't it
intelligence.
the British
or whatever.
intelligence,
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we get like 2 pages of her arguing with them, being like, I know.
She's like,
all
I'll
the
fucking
phrasing.
kill you.
Yeah, or like, I'm going to
doesn't
get
say, "I'll
you
fucking
fired
kill
if you
you."
don't connect me through to your.
She's like, I know you have an alien, and they're like, oh, hang up. And she's like, yeah, I know your admin.
And she has all these like old codes, and she's like, I'll wait 30 seconds while you look up this, authorization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then she says, okay, you can, the person on the phone says, okay, you can meet with this person. She's whatever's like, don't let them scan us when we're there. And then they go to the holding facility, and there's an alien in a cell, and she goes, hello, Lorenzo. And she tells Hawk Girl and the engineer, Angie Shen, meet my first husband. Because they said earlier in the issue, Jenny's like, yeah, I fucked all these alien princes.
Wow.
And that ends issue 6. Yeah. So that's the cliffhanger. And I would like also to point out that this arc still does not have full page spreads to end, right?
Yeah, that's true. Instead, we just get full page of Jets dogfighting.
Yeah, okay, so that's kind of cool, but it's like...
yeah.
That's true. I guess it's action, which is what you're probably buying this for.
It's just something that's worthy of having a splash page, not fucking close up on Jenny Sparky's face.
So in the context of Edgelord August, what do you guys think so far?
It's all right.
So not edgelordy enough. Not
edgelordy enough.
It's luckily not edgelordy enough, so I can be like I don't have to like vomit in my mouth when I read some of these lines.
Yeah.
It's not super interesting to me, the plots so far. I do find the character powers really interesting. And it's a light enough on the edgelord that I'm not like they're not like murdering pregnant women constantly to prove a point. I'm like fine to keep reading, but I'm not like I gotta read more, and I'm not like I can't do this.
Well, you do gotta read more because that's what we're doing next time.
You know what? I quit the podcast, so I won't do it.
This is one book that breaks him. And I want to twist of fate. I shot Mark Millar in the beginning. I'd rather read Ultimates or Mark Millar's Authority over this.
I'm gonna kill you. Murder you, Sly.
I'm gonna kill you, Sly.
It's just
wait till it's over.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was gonna. The thing I just wanted to say is like I'm okay with it so far, but I was saying I think I enjoyed Ultimates more.
This is why I'm not okay with it, because you guys are okay with it. Like, I need a strong reaction from none of you are having a strong reaction. That's why this book fails. It needs a strong reaction, or it's not worth reading.
For Edgelord August, Sly needs us to be yelling at him, or us to be going yes, yes,
yes. Come on, that's how it works.
Yeah, but I want to say, I want to finish my thought that in comparison to Ultimates, that I enjoyed Ultimates more. I want to specifically say I enjoyed the beginning, the first half of Part 1 and Part 2 more. I hated the second half way more than I hate this. And the thing that this is missing is that this is like the Authority just goes around, they just shit on other like invading forces. And the invading forces was always my least favorite part of Ultimates. I really like the interplay of the team dynamic and whether or not it's okay to have a superhero force that exists like extrajudicially outside the law. Which this does none of. They're just like, yeah, we can, like, the fact that they can door anywhere is a crazy breach of, like, trust of any nation. That they're like, we can kidnap the president anytime we want. It's just like, I wish it focused more on that rather than like, here's aliens from another planet, or here's this guy that loves terrorism so much.
I feel like you have to, as like, if one is capable of making 1 million Supermen that can nuke any major city on the planet immediately, this is a world where like rules do not matter. There's no one who's safe. The president cannot be safe.
This is Patriot Act on steroids. Like the Patriot Act made us be like, okay, take our privacy, take this. 9/11 was enough for us to enact the private.
Because couldn't those Supermen just crash into the White House? I mean, this is again my problem with any big universe.
People sacrifice security for privacy any day of the week.
So, do you think that, knowing that this is before like the Patriot Act and stuff, do you view this as like not addressing how serious that is, or like
it's always tough
more
because
of a predictory
of
text?
The fact that this was before 9/11 and the Patriot Act, and like before we started to think more about what this means for America to invade other countries for their own protection. It's like,
what are you giving up?
Yeah, well, I'm like, I guess I can't hate it too much for that, but it still doesn't mean that it's a fun read if it's not addressing those issues, because those issues are more important. So, like nowadays in 2019, like discussing fascism's rise to power is a lot more interesting than it was in the 90s.
Yeah. Because I've been listening to a lot of like anti-fascist music from the 90s lately, and it's really interesting, like the context where I'm like, oh, so people did know this was gonna happen. Yeah. And we just didn't, like, it's not like unexpected. Same thing, like seeing these kind of things where they're like, when there's this big of a threat, you just give up all your liberties. Like, it wasn't out of nowhere.
In the 80s, they had Captain America comics about how basically like Donald Trump phenomenon was happening. Like I see people like shunning the immigrants, hating the fellow man, supporting government control over this and that.
Yeah.
Like basically they predicted Chuds and government surveillance at the same time. So like these are like I know everyone thinks like their decade is so unique. Like, but the challenges, the questions we face, people have been faced with for centuries.
And that's why I find books that like like this so interesting because like Mark Millar does it so much more heavy-handed, but I also wonder if that's the point because it was a more heavy-handed world after 9/11. You know,
I feel like this isn't addressing the authority of the authority at all.
It doesn't.
But it is. I think it is showing how people thought about it back then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's like satirizing that concept, but I'm saying like that the way it was talked about is so much like that's not part of the discussion yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which again, like I can't be like I wish they had known coming up, like they should be addressing it, but I want to read that book more than I want to read this book.
Yeah.
Which is what the Ultimates at least gave me for a little bit before it went rah America.
Before it became better, much better. Fuck the fucking deep and nuanced shit. Give me fucking Hawkeye shooting Black Widow in the face. That's what I want. That's what I'm here
Slide's
for.
lost his mind. He just wants like Lobo as every character.
I am so
giant
starved
naked
for
Ant-Man.
Edgelord. Like this is like weak sauce. Like this is like eating a fucking. You want a Whopper and you get like fucking chicken nuggets for dinner.
I like that this is Slide's like Christmas, where some people are like, Santa's just not enough in this story. Slide's like, no one's balls have been stepped on yet or cucked.
Yeah, come
Sorry,
on.
I didn't realize you needed this so bad. Should we do a Patreon episode on just like something real edgy?
I was thinking no. Patreon's going to be what's so fun. What's so funny about Truth, Justice, American Way?
Well, we'll talk about that off the air. But okay, so we'll be back in 2 weeks to do issues 7 through 12 of The Authority. So thank you all for listening to Divisive Issues. I've been about to hit you.
Fuck, that was.
I've been killed in Stormwatch vs. Aliens.
I've been sleeping with alien princes.
And Phil's been the Bert to my Ernie.
Stay in continuity.